You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those nerds! Nerds! Nerds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the REVIEWcast podcast. Joining us is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
Are you not Lisbeth Salander, the writer of wrongs? The girl with the dragon tattoo? The girl who hurts men, who hurts women?
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson.
Quick, suck it before the venom reaches my heart.
Wife Dork.
By big deals, I mean average size deals. It's no Fassbender, Dick.
And also joining us is Brad Gullickson.
And for gosh sake, watch your language.
That's not going away anytime soon.
Mouth Dork.
By these swans, I vow to avenge this murderous insult to God.
And I'm your host, Derek Smith.
Warm. Warmer. Disco.
The Disco Dork. 3 months ago, I was cutting grass in my front yard. Mailman shows up with a letter from the army. Now I'm here. No idea where I'm going to end up. And welcome to another edition of the REVIEWcast podcast.
Ain't that a bitch?
Oh, wait, what?
No, your quote. He said he didn't know he was cutting grass, and then
Right.
was.
Oh, I thought you had a problem with my quote.
No, I was like, ain't that a bitch?
Yeah.
Damn.
I was quoting Brad. That was something he said before the podcast.
Yep. How's everyone's week in Dork? How's
Brad
everyone
is
feeling?
rating all celebrity dicks now.
Oh, all right.
He's making a chart.
who's
It's
at-
a very sexy chart.
Who's at the top?
Fassbender.
Fassbender.
You have a
Top dick.
letterbox list for that?
I'm working on it.
Oh,
Make it public.
Let's see. Number one,
Fassbender.
Fassbender.
make your list about their privates public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's right.
Okay.
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, that would be in the top 10 for sure.
Okay.
Harvey Keitel,
Oh, yeah.
Piano Dick.
How many degrees?
Ken Jeong, Hangover Part 2.
Nice.
No. I don't like the propagation of that stereotype, Brian.
Sorry. I'm just thinking of men who went full frontal. That's just the first one that came
He's
to
just
mind.
being. This is a tasteful dick. Lip. What?
What's that? How does that dick taste? I hope this is
Tasteful list of dicks. Excuse my spoonerism.
this is the first episode for somebody, and they're just like, you know what? And this podcast is not for me.
And I'm out.
What I think of when we have conversations like that is I picture Max's cherubic face.
Oh,
Now
god
that
damn, I keep forgetting Max listens to this
Now that we've
podcast.
met our one child
Oh
listener
my
in
god.
person.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry,
Lisa.
Max.
Damn it.
I've taught him so many wonderful things.
Max. The proper term is tallywhack.
Don't tell him that.
All right,
It's called a penis, and be proud.
Brian,
Not too proud.
Brian.
A reasonable amount of proud. Don't lord it over anybody.
Max, I promise you, I didn't know they were going to say any of this shit before we started recording. Brian, how was your weekend
Weekend
Dork?
Dork wasn't too bad. Got out to see a couple of movies. Called a couple of movies on at home, and finished. Actually, that was going to be my weekend Dork, but I think I'm gonna switch it.
What?
Even though what I'm going to talk about, I'm not really that excited about either.
Oh.
But I did want to mention that I finished Daredevil season 3.
Oh.
Yay.
I liked it.
It sounds like a Netflix show, Brian.
It does.
Damn.
I stand by my choice of bailing on those shows.
I know. It's just interesting characters, and I love Charlie Cox as Daredevil, but just some of the plotting in that, and they really challenge. Well, that's the same thing I'm saying about. Anyway, Daredevil. And just watch it at your own risk if you're a fan. I don't know what side of the fence I'm on. If you love Marvel, if you're a diehard Marvel fan,
like Brad,
not like Brad.
It's hard to gauge. Just watch it at your own risk.
An
Anyway,
extraordinarily definitely limp thumbs up from Brian.
Exactly.
Damn.
Thank you, Lisa, for expressing how I really feel about it. I'm gonna talk a little bit about The Girl in the Spider's Web. Went and saw that film, and it's extremely unremarkable. Now,
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Brian's Week in Dork is sad.
Does it have anything to do with the previous one?
Well, that's the thing. I haven't really seen all the previous versions.
No, I mean the Daniel Craig one.
Yeah, the remake I haven't seen. The David Fincher film.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've heard. Have you guys seen that version?
Mm-hmm.
Is that one pretty decent?
It's okay.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. It's like Daredevil season 3.
Damn.
Yeah. So the thing about the character of Lisbeth Salander is that, not knowing too much about it, I know it's based on the trilogy of books from like Millennium Books, and they got turned into a trilogy of films in Sweden. And then, of course, we have David Fincher, who made the American remake over here, and played, by Rooney Mara in the David Fincher version, and Noomi Rapace in the Swedish version. But it seems to me that that character has a really rich history that this movie just seems to kind of, they feel like they're trying to kind of franchise this character and this kind of world, and it just doesn't work in that way. It just feels like it does a disservice to that character in some way, shape, or form. I don't really want to give too many spoilers away, but if you saw the last trailer, I mean, you pretty much know that she's going up against her sister. That was one of my main.
Shit, I didn't know that, motherfucker.
Well, sorry.
So this is the sequel to Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, right?
It's a reboot sequel, a reboot-quel, I think. I don't know what
Just
it is.
like the book, really, because the author died, and then another guy comes in and is like, we're going to continue this series, and this is the first book in this other author taking over the previous author's character.
That does make sense, because that's what this feels like. This
so
feels
she
like
goes up
completely
against
different.
her sister?
Well, the movie kind of starts off, the movie kind of starts off with the two of them trying to run away from their father. Their father has kind of been abusing them, and it's kind of alluded to that it's sexual abuse and stuff like that. And so Lisbeth tries to take her sister away, but the thing about the movie that I feel doesn't work is like they try to have her sister, whose name is Camilla, have this vengeance towards Lisbeth. But the thing about it is, like, Lisbeth tried to save her, and she chose not to go. She chose to stay with her father. But the way the movie frames it is like, well, I'm pissed at you because you never came and saved me, when she tried to save her. And it's just like, so it just feels forced. It feels manufactured, the way they're trying to, put these two sisters against each other. So that didn't really work for me.
I don't know. Like, to me, it seems kind of weird that, I haven't seen the first one either.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sound like the kind of thing I'd be interested in. Mm-hmm. But it's the theme of a woman getting revenge on society that has, she's been raped multiple times and she's taking vengeance. So why would this film end up with her fighting a woman?
Yeah. I guess.
That just doesn't seem in the spirit of the franchise. Then again, I've not seen any of it. I'm talking out of my ass.
I mean, the spirit of the franchise is just abuse and misery.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a good time at the movies.
No, and this movie doesn't really touch upon any of that. This movie just really feels like another kind of run-of-the-mill spy thriller. In the vein of like a James Bond or Jason Bourne or Mission Impossible. It feels like that's what they're trying to do.
I like that shot where she flies her motorbike off the edge of that little hill and then lands on the ice lake.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the movie is ultimately it's just boring. I mean, you watch the movie and it just feels almost how we talked about First Man, how it feels sterile, it feels cold. This movie feels the same way. Like watching it in the audience, there's no thrills in it. It never engages the audience.
But at least with First Man, that was a character choice.
Yeah. This doesn't feel like it's really trying to go for that type
I like
of tone.
Fede Alvarez in
Me too.
theory.
I like him, and he does the only thing I can really say positive is like he does some interesting things.
Wait. Fede Alvarez directed The Girl in the Spiders?
Yeah.
Really?
So he does some interesting camera techniques, but those flourishes are very far and few between. Lakeith Stanfield is in it, but he played, and he's great. And And that's what I could say about the movie that I really like is the fact that I like the cast. I think Claire Foy really kind of embodies the character of Elizabeth Salander really well, and Lakeith Stanfield, because we know him from TV shows like Atlanta and some of the other films that he's been in, and to see him do something like this, I like the fact that he's kind of diversifying his career and really kind of broadening himself a little bit more. But the movie just feels dull. It feels bland, and there's just nothing really to it. And I hate this. Like I can get with suspension of disbelief, but this hacking thing is what I call like crypto magic. It's like you could just type something on the keyboard or pull something up on a cell phone and then automatically just shut something down, or you can do like she does this one thing where she's in a car chase and she gets on her phone and she hacks into the other car to unleash the airbags in the other car, and I'm like, okay,
crypto
Is
magic.
that what the shortcuts are on my Firefox?
No.
Like when Firefox suggests making shortcuts, it's shortcuts to exploding other people's cars?
No.
It's just so, I mean, and I could go along with stuff like that, but this movie, because it just felt like it was giving it was too convenient for the character. It was giving her too many outs, and it was just way too convenient for her to just be able to like, oh, well, let's get her out of the situation. Let's have her type some keys, and then voila.
It's like the sonic screwdriver.
Or I was thinking like all of the spells in Harry Potter.
So yeah, that kind of bothered me, but I don't recommend this movie. I don't know if anybody.
So that's
Do not follow in Brian's footsteps. He is being underwhelmed by his life in Dork.
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie that we're going to talk about in that review cast.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But I did rewatch that. But
so you're still capable of loving?
I think I am. I think I still have love in my heart that I'm able to give to the world. But yeah, I guess I'll end it there. That was my weekend Dork.
Yeah.
All right, Lisa.
Yes.
How was your weekend Dork?
My weekend Dork, amazing as per usual.
Mm-hmm.
There are new seasons of Great British Bake Off on Netflix, so like life is great.
How many are there total so far?
Like in the world,
like a bunch.
Yeah.
Well,
it's kind of,
as far as on Netflix?
On Netflix, I don't even know, because originally they just had like 4 or 5
seasons.
Yeah. But like apparently they've been doing the show in England like forever, so there's like potentially like infinite seasons, and the show is going on. So they've dropped seasons from like the
past
Paul Hollywood Mary Berry era, and they've dropped the new seasons. So I don't know. I imagine it's like Doctor Who. I'll just go back to the beginning of time in Great British Bake Off, and I'll like time is a circle. I'll just make a complete loop until I'm just. You know, it's just like Gilmore Girls. I'm just an infinite loop. I never complete it. But I don't want to talk about that.
No.
I want to talk about Brad and I. We had a day off together on Saturday, and we're like, we're young people. We're in love. What do we want to do to enjoy our time together? And he's like, let's watch a 3-hour Korean movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, sir. That sounds amazing. Where should we see it? The Angelica, the worst theater in our area.
This is the thing about the Angelica now. I love to sit in the first couple of rows, right? That's like my cinematic philosophy. I want to look up and my whole world be the screen. Mm-hmm. But at the Angelica, you can't do that because behind you is an armada of old people chit-chatting into your brain.
Yeah.
So I've gone all the way to the back row under the projector. Yeah. So I might as well just be watching TV because the screen is so damn far away.
No.
But at least the voices are being projected in front of me.
Yeah. Though the couple in front of us did polish off an entire bottle of wine in like the first 2/3 of the movie, and then the last 2/3 of the movie they spent taking turns going to the bathroom.
So you mean really the first third?
Yeah.
They polish off the wine, and then the 2/3 they.
Don't check my math.
I'm just saying your fractions are wrong.
Okay. Well, anyway, it was slightly distracting.
Yeah.
But the movie that we saw was Burning. So this was a movie that we actually missed at Fantastic Fest. Mm-hmm. Nobody in this room saw it at Fantastic Fest.
No, I didn't.
Okay. So it was directed by Chang Dong Lee.
Mm-hmm.
I went to his IMDb. I don't recognize any of his films. He's done 9 or so films. that I have not seen or heard about, but that doesn't mean, you know, I have limited knowledge of things.
Yeah.
But it is starring one of our faves, Steven Yeun.
Yes.
One of the handsomest people alive. Totally distracting on the screen.
I agree.
But the story is about this guy. He's part of this like millennial generation. They're coming out of school and they're not finding jobs, and so he has to move back in to his father's farm, and his father is in some legal trouble. So he's kind of, you know, holding down the fort while his father deals with this legal trouble. And then he meets this manic pixie dream girl in the city who actually, they knew each other in childhood. And she seems to remember him very well. And he seems to maybe remember her vaguely. But I use the term manic pixie in that she is like the stereotype of the manic pixie dream girl. She's gorgeous. She's whimsical, and she is deeply damaged. She spends a lot of the movie just straight up like she'll spin in a circle laughing and then cry and want to die. That's her. So he meets this girl. She seems to be really into him. She asks her to watch her cat while she goes out of town. And she thanks him by fucking him. And then, this is important. I'll go back to that. But then when she comes back from the trip, he goes to pick her up from the airport, and she's coming back with Steven Yeun.
No.
And he's Steven Yeun-ing it up, being super handsome, and he's also very rich. And so, but Haimi introduces our main character, whose name is Lee Jong-soo. He introduces Jong-soo as her only friend in the world. So he ends up hanging out with them a lot, and it really does seem like the Steven Yeun character is kind of using her as like a weird like amusement, you know, and that's all I'll say. But the one interesting thing that I think is like critical to kind of talking about the movie without talking too much about the movie, because hopefully you guys are going to go out and see it, is that like the first thing she says to this guy is like, when they see each other, is like, "You once told me that I was ugly, and I've gotten plastic surgery, and I'm beautiful now." And so I'm going like, oh my goodness, is this going to be like this crazy revenge film? And so they go back to her like little apartment, one room apartment, and they start to consummate their agreement for him to watch her cat. And I'm like, oh my God, she's going to give him some kind of crazy burning venereal disease.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not the plot.
Oh.
I like that plot.
There's one thing I'd say about this movie is In-yu plays Jong-soo. And he's not an ugly man, but he is paired with Steven Yeun, who is like crazy beautiful.
Yeah.
And I liked how In-yu plays that just on his own physical, like the way he physically reacts to this guy, to Steven Yeun's beauty. It captures my own feelings when you encounter a unicorn in the real world.
Yeah, no, it definitely turns inside of himself, and like it seems like he's like useless next to Steven Yeun. That like he can watch this lady who he's infatuated with be abused by him, not abused like physically abused, and not even abused in a way that she's necessarily picking up on, but not respecting her the way that she should be respected, and he can say nothing.
Yeah, In-yu is really, really good at the movie. Steven Yeun's great.
Yeah,
but it's a really the reason you're watching this film is to witness these two men basically sniff each other out.
Yeah.
One
thing I'd say about this movie, okay.
It's not a happy film. It's a South Korean movie, right? So it's not a happy movie.
It's not a happy movie. It's also, it's a slow-ass movie. Yeah. You know, it's extraordinarily, and you figure out exactly what's going on. There's like one little detail where like once you pick up on it, you're like, oh, the movie is this. and then you're just plodding through the rest of the movie, waiting for this to play out. To me, like, what needs to happen to this movie is you need to, like, put it in a pan, put it on the stove, like, let it, like boil out the essence of this movie. Because the essence of the plot of this movie is really interesting and really engaging and fun to talk about. And Brad and I had a wonderful conversation coming out of the film. But while you're in that film, you're like, come on.
Does there need to be 3 masturbation sequences?
Yeah, we get it. You're into her. Like, and it was always the same thing where you hear the zipper and then you're just looking at his slack face and listening to
He's not enjoying it?
To the one-man band that is a man alone. And it's just like so unnecessary. But it does kind of come to a beautiful denouement.
A climax.
Of masturbating scenes where you're just like, oh, and now the masturbating has come full circle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Circle jerk?
No.
Oh.
We wish.
Oh.
No.
Sorry, Max. Man. Damn it.
I don't know. Anyway, so I liked it.
I liked it. Yeah.
That's what I would say about burning.
It's a real slow burning.
Yeah, it's a slow burn.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm the first to use that joke.
All right, B. How was your weekend, Dork?
It was okay. It was a weird week outside of dorkery, right? You know, so we had the elections on Tuesday. We had the fallout of the elections on Tuesday.
We got the House. Democrats got the House.
We got the House. That press conference was amazing to watch. Whoa. And then the doctored footage is just like, what the
Brad got hacked. So on the day after the election, Brad was
No, the day of the election.
The day of the... Well, no.
No, yeah, the day of the election.
No, I thought it was...
As I'm tweeting out the responses of the election, and I'm quote tweeting out all the positive stuff.
So the day after voting day. I get voting and election mixed up.
No, it's the day of voting, Lisa. You vote, and then, Tuesday.
So you got hacked on Tuesday?
Yeah, I'm announcing, as everyone's coming out, you quote tweet who won.
Oh, anyway.
Yeah.
So,
it all happens on the same day.
So Brad was going I'm going to put out this positive message, and I'm just going to all of the good things that are happening. I'm just going to tweet them out, and somebody hacked him.
Well, somebody got into my Twitter account and locked me out. I got locked out for a short window before I started tweeting more positivity again.
Yeah. But I think that's a sign that Brad is like a warrior, social justice warrior.
Yeah, that's what I am.
In the good way. Who wouldn't want to be a social justice warrior? A warrior for social justice? Who wouldn't want it?
Well, seems like a lot of people don't, unfortunately.
So that happened. The Thousand Oaks shooting happened. Then the multiple forest fires happening, and seeing everybody's homes getting destroyed, and some loss of life as well. Just so this whole week, what have I been watching? I've just been watching things to completely take me to a happy place. So I rewatched Captain America Civil War. I rewatched Black Panther. I rewatched Infinity War. I rewatched Ant-Man and the Wasp. And of course, I had a great time with all of those movies. I rewatched Suspiria for my 3rd time. I just wanted a good feeling at the movies. So I didn't do a lot of exploring cinematically. I did catch on Netflix the new film Outlaw King from director David Mackenzie, who did Hell or High Water, one of my favorite films of recent memory. It's basically a sequel to Braveheart. That Braveheart ends with William Wallace getting pulled apart and Robert the Bruce going, maybe betraying him was a bad thing. And then you get a title crawl saying, Robert the Bruce went on to create the first war of Scottish independence. And this is about Robert the Bruce and that war that comes after. And Chris Pine plays Robert the Bruce.
Oh, okay.
So you do get to see pieces of William Wallace in this film. Getting strewn across England and Great Britain in general. And it's about him deciding, I need to fight for our country. I need to become the King of Scotland so that I can push back this oppression. And and so that's what it is. And it's a ton of Braveheart-like battles.
Yeah.
You know, arrows going through necks, limbs getting cut off, heads getting cut off, CG blood spraying everywhere.
But the talk of the town has been
the tallywhacker of Chris Pine. You do get to see it. And you get some really nice ass shots of him as well.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
I did go to bed halfway through this film.
Right.
I don't like guys on horses. When chainmail gets involved, I get dozy. But yeah.
So yeah, the film's pretty good. Like it's certainly engaging. It had its premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival, and it had pretty much negative reactions to it. So David Mackenzie went into the editing booth one more time, and he took out, I think, an hour of footage from the movie.
Yeah, I was about to ask you about that because I read about the screening at TIFF, and then he did go back and re-edit it.
Yeah, so I mean, I was never bored.
Okay.
I think the stuff in the film I find the least interesting is probably the war stuff, the actual battles. It's stuff you've seen before, you know. It's Chris Pine on a horse talking to his men, and then, you know, madness ensues.
So all the drama and character stuff is really good.
And I love Pine in it. Like, is his Scottish accent great? No. But he also doesn't lean too heavily into it either, and I kind of appreciate that.
Okay.
He's not quite Tom Cruise and Valkyrie, just being an American as a German.
Sure.
But he's also not really laying it on thick either.
So David Mackenzie, you said that he cut an hour. So what's the runtime on this movie?
It's just after 2 hours.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So the screening at TIFF must have been like over 3?
I don't have the actual numbers. I think it was 2:45 originally, and so maybe he cut out.
He did cut out a massive.
45 minutes of it.
Okay.
I'm a massive Chris Pine fan, so I'll watch him do anything.
Yeah.
And maybe I wanted this movie to be something a little more surprising and original. But in telling the Robert Bruce story, I mean, you're already limited to the facts of history for the most part. And, you know, it is one of those things where, just like with Queen, right, and Bohemian Rhapsody, you get out, you jump onto Wikipedia, you start reading hot takes and think pieces. And last night, I'm researching Robert the Bruce. And so I like that aspect to these movies.
That's interesting. Okay, I might have to check that out because I had no idea exactly what the film, because I never watched any trailers or anything. So do you think it would make a good double feature with Braveheart?
Oh, I immediately wanted to watch Braveheart afterwards.
Really?
I was like, oh, I wish I had done this back to back. Of course, it would be, you know, nearly 6 hours of viewing. Aaron Taylor Johnson's in the film, right? And he's playing Douglas. What is it? James Douglas. And it's the role that Ben Foster should have in this film. He's the maniac, the wild man who just is there to tear shit up and cut heads off. And I don't think Ben Foster in any way, shape, or form can play a Scotsman. So Aaron Taylor Johnson does that version of Ben Foster. But at the same time, I was just like, I would have accepted his Valkyrie Tom Cruise-like performance just to get Ben Foster in here cutting heads off.
Dang. I do remember hearing about his performance was just crazy coming out of TIFF. They talked about Aaron Taylor Johnson and just how
he's unrecognizable.
Okay.
But Brad recognized him immediately, to which I responded, "No way!" And then Brad looked it up on IMDb, and I was
Quicksilver. He's a Marvel fan.
Yeah. So yes, I would. You know, it's on Netflix. I'd recommend it. So the final runtime is 2 hours and a minute.
Okay.
And I want to say they cut out 40 minutes, 45 minutes of it.
I did find the relationship between Robert the Bruce and Queen Margaret of England. So she gets betrothed to him in kind of a political move, and they really paint him as the gentleman. This is yours. I've been drinking it. I've been drinking Brad's LaCroix while he was talking. But so it's one of those things where it's just like, you know, they have the big wedding and they're like, now it's off to your marital bed to consummate. And they go, and then Chris Pine is like, have a good night. And he gentlemans it right out the room. And I just find the beginning of the relationship very interesting because, you know, he's trying to warm up to her and she's not giving it up and she's not giving it up. And then he's like, we can rule Scotland together. And then she's like, Yes, Bone Zone. It's really kind of funny to me.
Who plays that? Who's the actor who plays that lady?
Rebecca Robin?
I don't know. Oh, okay.
You would not recognize her in anything because this is, I think, her first movie.
Oh.
Yes, in fact, it is.
Okay.
She's incredibly young. And, just like and you in Burning, standing next to Stephen Yeun, and you're just like, oh my God, Stephen Yeun is like, physical beam of light.
Yeah.
Chris Pine's the same way, Anyone standing next to Chris Pine, even with
he's all scarred up and stuff,
a beard, and he's got a little bit more of a paunch on him, you're just like, ray of sunshine.
I think she is extraordinarily
I'm not
pretty.
saying she's ugly.
Even though
I was not trying to imply that.
You'd just rather go Bone Zone with him than you would with her.
I'm just saying I don't.
I accept that as your wife.
I understand why.
I'd happily take sloppy seconds after Pine.
Wow.
After you have Pine. That's weird.
Boy.
All right, Max.
That's my weekend dork.
All right. So for my weekend dork, I'm still getting my bearings in Red Dead Redemption 2. I bought a new horse. I stole.
Congrats.
Yeah.
What did you name it?
Hard Times.
That's actually pretty fucking cool for a name for a horse.
Yeah, because it seems like everyone is having those in the West and at that particular time. I didn't go to the movies much, but I did watch the final season of House of Cards. And House of Cards was a series that I used to talk about on the podcast quite a bit, actually. But then even before like the fallout with Kevin Spacey and all that drama, but even before that, I had kind of let up off of the show. So that madness with him happens, and then they announced they're going to continue with the show, but this season would be the final season, and they were going to work his absence into the narrative. So I was curious when they announced that, how that was going to play out. But even with that, like I had totally forgotten about that show and was not expecting or anticipating the sixth season. So, after a coworker who I used to discuss the show with asked me about the final season, it reminded me, well, shit, I have to watch it. So I did that. And man, so certain series, they get to a certain point and then they run out of steam and they don't stick the landing. And I kind of feel like this last season was that for the show. And unfortunately, because of Kevin Spacey and him
being a rapist,
yeah, and being
a molester, and
taken out of the show,
disgusting human being,
yeah, and them having to work around that within the series, with them deciding to continue with the show, I feel like that unfortunately affected the quality of this final season. So he disappears, and it's left ambiguous as to whether or not he's actually alive or if he's dead. And the final season, that mystery kind of looms in the air. Meanwhile, Claire, she is the head of office now. She is the president, and all of the scandal, even with Frank being gone, she's still dealing with the fallout of that and all the stuff that she's done. And the guy who plays I want to call him Harry Stamper, but that's from Armageddon. It's Doug Stamper. Michael Kelly. I love Michael Kelly. Like, he's such a great actor. He's really good in this show. But unfortunately, like where they take his character in this final season, you know what? I'm just going to spoil it. So if you care about House of Cards,
you shouldn't.
I've never seen it, so.
You might want to stop listening, but
skip to our review cast.
Yeah, skip to our review cast. But I'm going to talk about it, right? So basically, the show comes down to Doug Stamper and Claire Underwood, Robin Wright and Michael Kelly, and started going back earlier into the series. The show never felt like it would end up being them two that the narrative will culminate with, but it felt like, well, we have to deal with the Kevin Spacey issue somehow, so this is the best possible way. And because of that, they end this series, they end the show with him. So he goes to the Oval Office to confront her, he knows the truth about Frank, and
what's the truth about Frank?
He killed him.
Oh shit.
And the reason why that's a really big oh shit is because he is Frank's Chewie. Like, he was his right hand man throughout. Like, whenever Frank was doing anything or needed dirty work, he would do it. So much so that, you know, one of his final words to Claire was, you know, Frank was a good man. Like, he genuinely he looked up to him so much that he genuinely believed in his heart that Francis Underwood was a good person. So anyway, you know, it's a shocker that he would be the one that ended up taking his life, but he felt like Frank was becoming so unhinged and had gone so far that he was about to destroy everything that they had worked to build. And so ultimately it became that which was, I guess, he found most precious, and not necessarily Frank. But anyway, he was confronting her, and he puts a letter opener to her throat to threaten her to, what did he threaten her? He just wanted her to say Frank was a good person. And he put it, and he cut her, and he kind of freaked out. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And while he was freaking out, she stabs him, and he falls to the floor. She cradles him. She kisses him on the forehead and says everything's going to be okay. She looks at the camera, and then credits.
Ooh.
Like, that's it. Like, so she kills this guy in the Oval Office, and the show ends right there. So I don't know how I feel about that. I do know how I feel about it. I'm not happy.
They should have had it end with Frank Underwood being exposed as a fucking molester and a disgusting human being.
Yeah, well, that had happened in real life, so I guess they didn't want to repeat that. But yeah, so I loved that show starting out, but unfortunately it ran out of steam, and I don't feel like the ending lived up. But
I still really like Baby Driver.
I like Baby Driver too.
Yeah.
So that's it for my week in Dork.
I do want to mention, one last thing. I did saw Teen Titans Go.
You did. Yeah! You saw that?
I saw that. It was good.
Yeah.
It's funny, right?
It was funny.
I told you, man.
How about that Aquaman joke?
When he got caught in the...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How about Bruce Wayne and his parents?
Oh, man. Yeah, when they went back and tried to...
Don't spoil it.
We could mention Bruce Wayne's dad in our Fistful of Widow/Widowers, but only for a second.
Oh yeah, it was split. Wow. All right. When we come back from the break, we are going to be doing our review cast for Overlord.
Yeah, Overlord.
Overlord. Yeah. So stay tuned.
Maybe for Brad it was Underwhelmed Lord.
Spoilers.
Wow. All right. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. This week's review cast is for Overlord, the new World War II /horror/action/suspense thriller pick. We caught it earlier this year at Fantastic Fest. It is now in wide release for the general population to check out. You should check it out. It's a very entertaining film. And you'll hear why as we go through our good, the bad, the ugly. Brian.
Yes.
That opinion does not represent all of the dorks in the Dork Cave. Full disclosure, asterisks. Jared doesn't speak for Brad.
I do not.
Asterisks for one watch.
Yeah.
Watch it again, man. Gotta watch it again. Okay.
Tell them why, B. What's the good?
I really enjoyed this movie. I guess give you a little peek behind the curtain. We're going to kind of spread the love of our good a little bit. We may share a little bit of our good.
We're basically doing that just because Brian steals all the goods.
I know, because I'm first, and I just, I get dibs on everything. So I steal the thunder from a lot of people. I'm sorry.
From down under. Right out from under us. Is that where that comes from?
Well, don't know. Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't
No,
know.
it's not. It's from Australia.
Ah, there we go. Okay. I like the tone. I like the tone. I like the genre mashup. I like this whole idea. Now, I talked about this a lot, and this is something that, you know, me and Darren talked about, like certain things that I kind of am drawn to. I think last week I talked about the foreign film from Korea called Rampant, where it was a movie that kind of took place in like feudal China that was infused with zombies. So it does a lot of zombie and genre mashups there. And I think this movie does a really good job of having kind of like that B-movie tone and that B-movie style, but it doesn't wink at the camera, and I like the fact that the movie does have that B-movie status, but it does take itself seriously. It's in the vein of like the Grindhouse films, the Planet Terrors, and the Death Proof, but it takes itself seriously, and I think the movie benefits in that way. For me personally, I think it does.
I won't make eye contact after every sentence. I'll stop.
It's okay. You're right in my eye line.
I know.
For the listeners.
But hide behind your mic. Hide behind your mic.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's also in the vein of...
That's why Darren does that.
We know that, you know, Nazis did do medical testing, and if they thought they did have a way of creating, like, soldier zombies, they fucking would have.
Yeah, and that's...
I've seen Hellboy.
Yeah, I've seen Captain America.
Yeah, exactly. I think this movie plays into that a lot. And another thing that I like about it, too, is the fact that how it plays on our fear of... and the fear and the horrors of war. And then it takes that fear of war and it heightens it by also bringing out like our fear of like monsters and stuff like that. And going to your point about the experiments that the Nazis were doing at that time, it just takes that fear and it's able to kind of heighten it, and it really engages the audience in that way to kind of bring you into that fear that these characters are kind of feeling throughout the film. So I don't know. I really dug a lot of the stuff, and then especially in the third act when you start to see a lot of that genre mashup where you have like the action war piece, and then you have like the monster zombie piece, the inside the bunker, and the way it cuts in between it. It just really makes it a really thrilling and fun and just kind of kick-ass movie. I really dug the energy and the vibe of this film. It was just a lot of fun to watch.
Also, in terms of zombie films, like zombies are, you know, generally used as some kind of metaphor, political metaphor within the context of the film. So, you know, in this movie, it was how the Nazis were dehumanizing people for their own gain. Yeah. And there are other avenues where this movie tries to insert some kind of metaphor that may come up in another category of mine, but I really do think that they're trying to go for like a bigger idea.
Okay, yeah.
In using zombies.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Is that it?
Yes. Oh, I'm talking to Brian.
Yeah.
For your good?
For now. I'll chime in a little bit more.
All right. Wife Dork.
Yes.
How about you, the good?
My good. My good goes to the cast. I think that there are a couple of really standout performances in this movie. Starting with, to me, a newcomer. I haven't seen him in anything else. Oh, nope, that's not true. Jovan Adepo. So we also saw him in...
Fences.
That's right.
Yes.
We also saw him in Fences. He plays Boyce in Overlord.
Mm-hmm.
He gives an extremely nuanced performance.
Mm-hmm.
He really plays that kind of conflicted soldier who wants to stand up for what's right, but also is not really cool with violence. And he's
inexperienced, like three months into the service, and he's at war.
Yeah, and he feels kind of tricked into it.
Yeah.
I think. Also, Wyatt Russell. We here in the Dork Cave, huge fans.
Yeah.
Nepotism works.
Yeah.
Nepotism works.
He's also talented.
He's also talented.
Yeah.
I think.
He's great.
I really like him.
I think he's really wonderful.
And anything that keeps that Kurt Russell charm alive in cinema is a good thing.
Absolutely. And he has that in spades. He kind of plays the more seasoned soldier. He's brought in to like kind of guide these newbies through like, I guess, the day before D-Day. What is that called? D-Day Eve? Dave?
Yeah.
They call it Dave. No. But Yes. So
Wyatt Russell has the same ability that his dad does, where he can turn asshole into charm.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and I think that the scene where he's kind of facing. No, I'm not gonna say that. I was gonna bring up the scene where he's like having a one-off with the zombies, letting the other guys kind of get away.
Oh yeah, at the end.
That's not the best scene in the world, but he does bring a lot of bravado and.
Yeah, but listeners, if this is your first episode and you haven't shut us off because of all the tallywhacker talk, know that we are going to spoil the film.
Oh,
so
yeah. Sorry.
Yes,
get ready.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, he sacrifices himself, and he's charming while he does it.
Yeah, Giovanna Depo is cool. I actually urinated next to him.
What?
You urinated next to him?
Yeah.
When you talk about an actor of that caliber, he does not pee, he does not piss, he urinates.
When you say you urinate next to somebody, it sounds like, I don't know, you stumbled upon him in an alley somewhere. Like, where did you urinate on him? I mean, next to him.
Let me, it wasn't on him. I don't think I would be here. It would probably be, in court somewhere.
Hold on.
I would be your character witness.
Thank you.
If you got arrested for peeing on Jovan Adepo, I would be like, that is not a thing Brian would do under normal circumstances.
No.
I'd be like, objection, Your Honor.
This is another Fantastic Fest story.
It was.
Okay.
We originally saw this at Fantastic
Take a shot.
Fest. And this, I know, right? So this was the first film. This is my first Fantastic Fest experience. I actually saw this.
Urinating next to?
Yeah, you could say that. That was my first experience. There you go. Watch the movie. My first experience wasn't that great because I had to sit in the front in one of the fold-out chairs.
This is not about urinating if you're sitting in the front in the fold-out chair. I don't know how the men's room works.
This was after the movie. So watch the movie. Okay. I come out, and we all know, like, in the hallway as we start to, follow out into the front of the lobby.
Right, you bump into Elijah Wood.
And then, I see Wyatt Russell and Giovanna Depo in front of me. And I'm like, oh shit, that's the cast right in front of me. I was like, this is Fantastic Fest. This is pretty awesome. So Javon goes to I had to go pee.
So you followed him into the bathroom.
I did have to go pee. And then he went into the bathroom too.
Wait,
did he go in first or did you go in first?
Imagine if they both, Brian followed him in and then he didn't have any pee to evacuate. So he just had to make the sound when it hit his mouth.
I want Brian to answer the question. Did you follow him in or did he follow you in? Or is it shoulder to shoulder?
I think it was shoulder to shoulder. I'll stick with that. So I did have to urinate. So I go to the urinal, and he's in the urinal right next to me.
Wait, so he was already peeing, and you'll go I'm gonna go right next to him?
No, actually, I was there first, and then he came to the empty one next to me.
And then was there only two?
No, I think it was 4 of them. It was already occupied.
Oh, okay. So you're just lucky.
I got lucky, and I was like, "This is a terrible story," because ultimately I didn't say anything or do anything.
I think that's the proper thing to do.
You did the right thing.
No, I know, but I was just like, he was right there, and I was like, damn, I really want to say something.
You never.
You know that, B.
You don't talk to the dude in the next urinal. You never talk to the dude.
I know, but I was hoping that
you'd be like, great performance, and he's like, wait till you see my finish, and then
I wanted to ask him. I was like, how was it working with Denzel? But
no, that would be breaking Fantastic Fest etiquette.
No, I wasn't going to do that, but I did want to say something at the urinal,
sure. Okay.
but maybe afterwards
and
coming
then he'd
out.
Be like, oh my God, you're the guy next to me at the urinal.
But I just thought, for my first movie, for my first experience at Fantastic Fest, to be next to the star of the movie that I just watched,
urinating,
peeing next to him, I was like, it's
peeing now, is it?
Urinating, sorry.
Now he's gotten all casual. Now they out a little
I know. I was like, man, this is. So this is what Darren was talking about. So this is Fantastic Fest.
Magical.
Okay. Yeah, wait till you take a shit next to Elijah Wood.
Did you take a shit next to Elijah Wood?
No, I'm waiting too, but I'm just saying.
I just want to see the pissing, pooping bingo card at Fantastic Fest.
Bathrooms are not a great place to meet people, to run into people.
I just have to say, since you got to brag about your peeing adventures, I've been in the ladies' room with Tessa Thompson. We've already talked about that.
Yeah.
And Melissa Joan Hart.
Oh,
Yeah.
Clarissa.
Yeah, Clarissa. She
All right.
explained it all. She explained that she was pregnant and had to pee all of the time.
I-
She wasn't talking to me.
You're
She was
so
talking to someone else.
fast. You're so fast. I was gonna ask, did she explain it? We
She
think
did.
alike.
She did, and I said, "That sounds terrible, Clarissa."
All right.
I wonder if every time her husband wants to have sex with her, if he gets on a ladder and puts the ladder and then goes, "Meow, meow."
Max, you have to know I genuinely apologize. I'm sorry. Maybe you should listen to this one.
I don't know what you're talking about. He's a sophisticated kid.
He is. That's my man. All right, Wife Dork, you were in the middle of your good.
Oh, I was?
We talked about Wyatt,
Oh, yeah.
and then there is one other.
Wow.
Matilda Olivier.
Yes.
I would not turn her away if she was next to me in the men's room.
She's great. Whoa.
She was great in this movie.
What are
So-
both of you doing in the men's room for that matter? Anyway, I'm sorry. She's amazing in the film.
She is good.
So she gets to go wherever she wants. I see how it is. But I'm a believer in the unisex bathroom. That's a political stance for me. I think that everybody should just go in the same bathroom. Anyway, I learned it from Boston Legal. Anyway, she plays Chloe.
Yes.
And what I like about this character and the way she's used in this film is she's, a female character, and a lot of her character motivation is she's protecting her little brother, which
Right.
is like a maternal role. But they don't take away from her any kind of effectiveness. They don't take away from her femininity, but at the same time, she's a fucking badass in this movie. She wields weapons, she goes off on her own, and yeah. She doesn't end up, there's like sparks between her and another soldier, I believe. I haven't seen it since Fantastic Fest.
There's a little bit
Implied,
between
but not-
Siobhan's character,
Yeah.
but we don't know if it's romantic or not.
Yeah.
But I
they
like the
have some
fact
kind
that
of kindred spirit.
Yeah, but I like the fact that she's not a damsel in distress neither. Like, she's in the action. Like,
Sometimes.
especially when she wants to go save her brother. Like, she's the one that's like, look, you guys are on this mission. I need to go get my brother. And
Yeah, she has her own set of priorities. And she's been the one who's been, taking care of her aunt and really living in the face of this horror.
Yeah.
That was happening beneath them, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and she gave an amazing performance.
She did. All right, B. So I just skip you then and go to my good?
I did really enjoy the opening of the film. I did.
Okay.
I think the sequence of the paratroopering is phenomenal. It's incredibly intense. You're latched onto a depot, and it's the most exciting sequence of the entire film for me. Then they land, and then it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It is a great opening, though. The way it just kind of drops you into the action, and it's really, really intense.
It's a stressful scene, the parachute scene. Really scary.
Because it starts, it's not even before he even jumps out of the plane or is pushed out of the plane. Excuse me. The plane takes gunfire. He's awakened from taking a nap because he hears explosions, and the plane takes gunfire. Bokeem Woodbine's character, the sergeant, he gets blown up, and
once I saw Bokeem was there, I was like,
he makes it.
Oh no, that's right. He gets shot. He gets shot. There's another guy on the right that gets blown up, and they have to patch him up before they even begin to jump out. And so then that sequence continues with him getting pushed out of that plane, and the camera follows him down and tracks all around him. That's like one of the most. That's got to be one of the most like visceral depictions of that type of like people jumping out of planes into war. Even more so than, remember in Edge of Tomorrow when Tom Cruise first comes out of it, and how it's basically almost this sequence.
I always think of the second episode of Band of Brothers.
Oh man!
I love that sequence as well. But this one is, it's much more. What's the word? It's more Hollywood, I guess. But it's almost video gamey. It's almost like a cut
scene. Yeah.
But a really well done.
It's effective, yeah.
Cutscene.
All right. Absolutely. All right. Which leads into my good. So I saw this cutscene for the second time today from our rewatch. I saw it in Adobe Prime auditorium at the AMC at Hoffman, and so that's going to be my good for the film is this particular presentation. And so on the podcast, many times before, I've championed the Dolby Prime auditorium experience. And the first film that I saw in a Dolby Prime auditorium was the Jon Favreau Jungle Book movie. And since then I've seen like Transformers films, Fast and the Furious films. I've seen Marvel films in Dolby Prime auditorium. But none of them, for some reason, had the same type of. It wasn't the same as the Jungle Book. My first viewing of it. Well, seeing Overlord today was. It had to be the most visceral experience I've seen and have had in an Adobe Prime auditorium. Like, it put every other experience to shame. I mean, even before. So when they're in the plane in the beginning, like the bombs and the shells that are exploding outside of the plane, you can feel those. And when the plane gets shot up, and whenever there's a gunshot, the seat shook and your bones shook. Every explosion, when there were punches being thrown, it sounded like and felt like a shotgun going off. I've never had an audio visual experience like that, and that movie I was not expecting that from Overlord, and it just intensified the entire movie for me. So when there are moments when the Nazis are just coming in the house, raiding the house, and going up the stairs to look for the kid, just them thumping up the stairs it felt like and sounded like bombs going off.
Yeah. So
I would say, Brad, if you're going to rewatch it, to at least get something out of the rewatch, because you seem to not like the film, I would say if you can catch it in Prime, to watch it, because I don't know, it was like a whole other experience.
There's a lot of movies out right now.
There are.
I'm never watching this in a theater.
Damn, sorry. All right, that is going to lead into the bad, Brian.
Yeah, my bad is probably a little bit of the script. For me, I just thought there was, and this is very minor. I thought the script probably needed to be punched up a little bit more, because I thought there were some missed opportunities for some great one-liners, kind of going back a little bit to my good, where it, just kind of embracing that B-movie status of the movie is that I think there was just some ripe opportunities, especially at the end of the film, especially with Wyatt Russell's character, to kind of give like some of those classic 80s Schwarzenegger one-liners. And I remember watching it the first time at Fantastic Fest. That was the one thing that kind of stood out to me. I was like, oh man, it's like this could have been a badass moment, but you ruined it, like you missed it. But that's really, really minor. But yeah, probably just another pass, another punch up of the script. Really could have made this just that much more enjoyable, and just to kind of just give it just that little bit more element of fun that I think we could have added with the action and a lot of the craziness that we saw in that third act of the film. I mean, I guess that's about it that I have as far as the bad. I wish I had more. But.
All right. Man, it's good that you don't have that much bad, because that means you enjoyed the film.
I did.
All right. Wife Dork.
For me, like, my ugly is kind of nebulous. But I'm just throwing it all under unclear zombie origins.
Well, this is bad. We're talking bad.
Right. Oh, my bad.
Mm-hmm.
My ugly is way worse than this. But so yeah, it's just kind of unclear zombie origins. Because like either I want to know nothing, or I want it to know everything, and I want it to make sense.
Yeah.
So I understand. I gather. Okay, Nazis are evil, and they're doing these experiments, but then they add this extra element of that somehow they're getting zombie juice from inside of France, that they're pulling out zombie jizz and turning that into zombies. And so for me, I understand that as a metaphor. Like, they're feeding off of the land, and they're, like everywhere they go, they're, like, taking the essence of what it is and turning it into evil. But, I don't know. If France is full of zombie jizz, like, I don't want any part of it.
Yeah. Sorry, Max. It's really not.
Yeah, it's full of brie.
What was the kid that that Boyce saved when he discovered the compound underneath the church? Remember the one kid that he saved that was in the firefight with Tibbet at the end?
Yeah.
That he was he being experimented on?
Yeah,
Yes.
they were going to. Yeah,
Oh,
he was
but
in the
they had-
process.
He had like
They
some
had-
kind of pump in his chest, and the entire time I'm like waiting for like
Him to
like
change.
he's gonna turn,
Yeah,
but
that's
he
what I was
never
thinking.
did. He was
Yeah.
just like, I've got
This
a
is
gaping hole
fine.
in my chest, but I'm fine.
I'm good.
Yeah,
Just stuff it with some gauze. But
Yeah, I think it was a little unclear, and I like you going to your point. I don't know if it necessarily needed to be explained, but the whole idea with because they were taking dead bodies and doing experiments on them, and they
Mhm.
were kind of bringing them back to life as zombies. But
and
then
they
you
were
could
also creating dead bodies. And then there was the
Yeah.
extra element with the aunt, where the aunt had clearly been.
Yeah, but if you inject
experimented
them
on.
with people who aren't dead, and how does that affect them as well? I don't know. It was
like
a little
Wyatt
unclear.
Russell.
Yeah. Or the other guy. Well, he was already pronounced dead in the attic. Was it Chase?
Yeah.
Chase.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was already dead. But yeah, like what that serum does to them if you're still alive or after the body has already been
Like, does it take a second? Or maybe those are all just different stages of the experiment. But to
Could
me,
be.
I just felt like they didn't exactly put that element together.
Mm.
It just
Okay.
didn't
I
feel
think
like a
there were
finished
some
idea.
rewrites going on there.
Yeah.
I think so. Okay.
But then, because they had the bubbly aunt, and then they had the fucking...
Yeah.
And then sometimes they come back quick, and sometimes they
And
don't
how
turn
they
at
got
all.
rid of the bubbly aunt too, like
And like what? Yeah, what happened?
it was through dialogue. So when they go chase the girl, he says, "Go up, take care of the aunt," and the soldiers go upstairs. And as the girl's running out, the shot is of her in the foreground, the house upstairs, bedroom in the background, and you hear the gunfire and you see the window, like glass
Yeah,
get
you're like,
blown out. Like so, they just shot her.
Like,
Well, that's what you're supposed to do with zombies, right?
Yeah.
If I ever become a zombie, please lock me up and wait for a cure. Don't shoot me in the head as like first thing. Like if you can, like if I'm gonna eat somebody or turn people, yeah. But if you have a place like a restroom or
That we could lock you
Safe
in.
you
room.
basically want Ed in the woodshed of Shaun of the Dead.
exactly
Like
chain me up
one
and wait.
bodies, you might be able to turn back.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
true. With some sweet, sweet loving, Brad.
Yeah,
Give it a
Brad.
try.
What film was that? Oh, The Dark at Psychorama. The Dark was basically the zombie coming back to life.
Oh, okay.
And then everybody
coming
feels
back to life.
everybody feels guilty for like putting a bullet in the head of their loved one to
Oh.
spare them. I'm just inferring. Anyway, wait for the cure for me.
I will. All right,
Thank
Brad.
you, Darren.
I guess the bad for
I
you.
think I can sum it up in one word, and that word is underwhelmed. I love the genre mashup as much as the next person. Captain America, First Avenger, yeah. World War II and Captain America.
Oh, yeah.
Religious horror and World War II, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Last Crusade, love that stuff. World War II and a Rocket Pack Man, Rocketeer, great, love it. But I felt like once they got to the scary castle where the Nazi stuff's going on.
Yeah.
The Keep, that's another good one. Keep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a good movie, but I
What?
think it's a better
It's
movie
amazing.
than this movie. I just thought like, you watch the marketing, you're like, oh, there's gonna be like zombies and stuff happening. Okay, and you watch the film, and you're like, yeah, zombies and stuff happened, but it never built to anything particularly interesting. And that final showdown of zombie strength between Wyatt Russell and the Nazi, just didn't do it for me. And I think that's because this was a Cloverfield film.
You think it was?
I think it was. I think at one point it was a Cloverfield movie, and then now it's not a Cloverfield movie. And they had to do some reshoots and rewrites to settle on what it ultimately was.
But it's interesting because I always look at the idea of a Cloverfield movie that they make these movies without going into the production as it's going to be a Cloverfield film. But then if they feel like it can be.
Well, that's not what happened with The God Particle. The God Particle was always going to be a Cloverfield movie, and then they leaned hard on it, and then they realized this film was not particularly good. Let's dump it on Netflix. And then that was, the response to that was so poor. The word around Overlord for the longest time was Overlord is a Cloverfield movie. And when Bad Robot jettisoned their Cloverfield ideas, I think they did a rework of this.
Hmm.
And if they didn't, then it sure as hell feels like they did.
Real okay.
Like
Okay.
I thought this ending was extremely shoddy and just obvious.
Okay. The stuff in the compound between, or as far as just dealing with the whole zombie.
The everything that Lisa was talking about, like the mythology around all this stuff.
Okay.
What is being experimented on? Okay. What are we seeing? What's the deal with this kid in the hose in his chest? And then leading to it's just this special reanimated juice.
Okay, yeah. And then the way it ends, where you can't know anything about it, so it just kind of cleans everything straight, right. cleans the slate clean. So okay, yeah, I can see that.
All right. Before I get into my bad, I do remember one good I wanted to talk about, and that's the kid. And I think his name is Paul in the film, the little kid. Yeah. And I just felt like he was great. Like his performance was really good. There's several scenes that calls for him to be actually afraid in the middle of like a firefight, and his reactions, I would bet money that they were genuine. If not, he's a really, really good actor. But even in the previous scenes, like when he's in the kitchen at the dinner table and he's sitting with Boyce. And they're having their exchange, and I don't know. I just felt like he was a really good actor. But my bad of the film kind of goes along with what Brian was talking about when he mentioned the script, and it's just the generic nature of the script and the screenplay, in particular, like how they deal with in the opening of the film when they deal with the introduction of the soldiers in the platoon. You have Grey Worm from Game of Thrones doing a really bad like country accent, and he's the stereotypical young soldier that has dreams and aspirations, and as soon as he announces those dreams and aspirations, okay, that guy's not gonna make it back. And I feel like that's been done so many times that I feel like there's a way to make me care about a character economically, quickly care about a character, invest in that character, so that when that character dies or you dispatch that character, I feel it. I feel that there's so many different ways to do that, and this film unfortunately falls back on the same old genre conventions, and also there were several sequences where like the main bad guy, Pilu is his name.
Yeah, Pilu Asbeck.
Yeah,
he's a great character actor. I like him.
Yeah, so there's this weird thing that happens in the movie, right? So when they first introduced to that guy, the young lady is trying to escort Boyce, and a villager sees her out at breaking curfew. She notifies the Germans, and they come, and that guy. That's when they first introduce him. And so he comes, he lets her go. They go back to the house. He comes to the house and he brings a army officer with him. And it's the army officer that spits on the baseball. So it's that sequence, right? Right after that, when Boyce leaves is when he sees the Nazis burning the bodies. And when they're burning the bodies, that officer guy is there. He walks out of that tunnel with them to burn the bodies, which means like within like a short time span, he was doing patrols with the Nazi guy in the house, and then now he's tasked with being with this science doctor dude while he's out there burning these bodies.
You're watching this movie way too close.
Right.
The only other person who noticed that was that kid's mom.
Probably, right? And so I was like, okay, this guy's jumping around a lot. But then like the main bad guy, the officer dude, like he was jumping around a lot. So I don't know, that bothered me for some reason. But just the script, I just felt like you said, Brian, the script could have been better, but also the screenplay could have used some originality.
Yeah. What about the exploding body? Remember when they got to the gate?
Oh yeah, that would be one of my uglies, because it's an ugly way to die, because not only did so this dude had a grenade in his mouth while sitting Well, tied to a motorcycle that had a sidecar filled with explosives. So the grenade blew him up first, which I appreciate because I got to see, and that was a practical effect. If it was CGI, it was one of the best. But anyway, the grenade blows up in his mouth, and then the motorcycle blows up. So he died like twice. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I did appreciate that scene. But yeah, that's my bad. It's just that the unoriginality, the lack of originality. Brian, the ugly.
The ugly for me, I guess you could say like some of the zombie transformations. The one that really, really just kind of disturbed me the most was the one for Chase. So Chase gets shot by Pilo Asbæk's character, Wafner, and they're trying to tend to him, and he gets shot in the chest, and he's pleading for his life, and he ends up dying. So this is after Boyce comes back from the compound with the serum. So he takes the serum, he sticks him in the needle, he wakes up, he feels a lot better, he's thirsty, wants water, and a lot of water and whatnot. But then like his body starts to change, and then like his neck snaps back, and you see like his bones start to protrude out of like his collar, and it's
nasty.
Yeah, it's a pretty gnarly effect, but it's just like,
dude, watching that in the Dolby. So when his neck snaps back and you hear the bone crunch, so the seat rumble and vibrates with the crunch, so you can feel the crunch. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I also think like the lady whose like head is like on the thing, and she's like,
so disturbing.
I know.
Yucky.
Yeah. So that was my main ugly. Just seeing like those bones protrude from his collar.
Lisa, would she be able to speak with her vocal cords severed in that way?
Technically no, just because you would need air pressure, and if she doesn't have like lungs and stuff. Do you know the way you would get her to speak? This is disgusting. But
Max, earplugs.
If you put your mouth to her trachea and just blew her like a kazoo.
Oh.
Thanks, imagination.
All right.
For filling those blanks.
All right, Brian. Lisa, you're the ugly.
For me, the ugly, and this goes back to just things just being a little cliched and not particularly thought through or inventive.
Yeah.
But a lot of the character motivation and explanation for the female character, for Chloe, was done through rape.
Yep.
And I understand that, in this time of history, exchanges like that had to happen. Women don't have the physical strength, and they don't have a lot to offer in terms of protecting their families. So they have to, use their bodies, I guess. And so Chloe was submitting herself to being raped multiple times by Pilu. I should say the character's name, not the actor's name.
Wafner.
By Wafner. And to me, I've seen that in movies already. I don't think it's particularly inventive. And for a character like Chloe, who later shows herself as extremely adept, I just think that there were other ways to show, yes, she's extremely committed to her family and willing to do anything to protect them. I think that there are other, you don't have to use the shorthand of rape.
Yeah.
So that's my ugly.
All right, B.
That's pretty good ugly. I don't know if I have anything specifically ugly about this movie beyond my disappointment. I really can't think of one. I think I certainly agree with Lisa. And yeah, there are some gnarly gore effects. There's that one severed head that's still talking, but I might have to rewatch it to come up with a really good ugly.
You gave it 3 stars at Fantastic Fest. That's
no, I didn't. I gave it 2.5.
I gave it 3 stars.
You gave it 2.5.
I'm sure I saw 3.
I'll bring it up right now, Brian.
I follow you pretty extensively on Letterboxd.
Brian has an elephant memory.
I now I've been using Goodreads, and I now have one friend on Goodreads. So Goodreads is like Letterboxd, but like for books.
Okay.
And it's really, and the one friend is like a fairly distant acquaintance, and so I'm just like just seeing what one dude is
Actually,
reading.
Brian, 2 stars. Is
Dun
what I
dun
give
dun! Anyway,
Really?
I could use some more friends on Goodreads because I feel creepy just looking at what one guy reads.
You sure you didn't change that?
I did not change it. I did not change it.
Talking about alternate history, am I right?
I'd much rather read a Harry Turtledove novel, even one of the more recent ones, than watch this again.
Oh,
damn! All right.
It just did not work for me.
I see.
It did not work for
You
me.
ain't lying.
I found it dull.
All right. My ugly would be would be the gore effects. Pretty. I don't know, man. Like that, I'll tell you. Like even this a scene as simple as there's one character who it was someone who was being experimented on, and he's resurrected with the serum, and he's chasing after Chloe, and I'm 99.9% positive that they used a real life amputee, and so they have him in this really gnarly makeup. So when you're affected by the serum, the appearance of the affliction is like your skin gets like really discolored, your veins get enlarged and dark and protruding, and like your bones start protruding, and you get boils over your skin. And so there's one guy who has this amputation, like he had these two bones protruding from his left arm, where the arm was amputated, and he's like using that as a weapon as he's chasing after Chloe. And just the way this particular actor moves about the screen, so like the serum it's like it has his muscles involuntarily spasming randomly as he's going down the hall, and the way that's shot, and coupled with that performer's practical makeup, coupled with his movements, I found it really affecting. I just thought that was a really cool character to embody, like just the twisted nature of these experiments in the film. So I would say that was my ugly. And then when she kills this guy, he's in her face. He has his bones, like he's about to stab her, and she puts a pistol under his chin, and she shoots him. And in that Dolby auditorium, that Walter sounded like a Mossberg shotgun. And I found that effect really cool because, like, when she shoots him in the chin, there's an effect they use. I guess they use it CGI, but the inside of his mouth is illuminated, so you can see the flash go off. Like when you put like a light up to your flashlight up to your palm, and you look through the other side, so you can see that through his cheeks. You can see the flash, like when she shoots him in the mouth. I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, that's going to do it for our review cast of Overlord. Hit us up on social media and let us know what you thought, if you have in fact seen the film. Brian, what do you got coming up this week?
Oh, goodness. I mean, we're gearing up for the holidays, so this is the weekend before the holidays. There's a lot of big releases coming out. The one I'm anticipating the most is Widows. So definitely look out for our fistful later this week. But Widows is like my number one thing I'm looking forward to. So screw Fantastic Beasts. It's all about widows.
Ugh. Fantastic Beasts, no thank you.
I will not screw any beasts, fantastic or not, Brian. Anyway, you can follow that guy at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. Wife Dork.
Yes. Coming up, I'm still, just because I've been watching Great British Bake Off, that doesn't mean I've stopped watching Gilmore Girls. I'm still watching Gilmore Girls. Rory and Jess have made it official, and they're trying to keep it on the down low, but it's disgusting.
Oh.
And we're going to see some rage happening. And, Widows. I'm super looking forward to Widows.
Yeah. All right. You can follow her at Sidewalk Siren and at Bake Dork on Twitter and Instagram. Also, she's at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd. Brad.
Widows.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right.
I don't even think I'm going to see Fantastic Beasts.
No, I'm good. I'm good on the Harry Potter movies and Harry Potter adjacent movies.
The last, you haven't seen a single one?
I haven't seen a single Harry Potter.
You're good. The last one I really disliked.
I've heard that from a lot of people, but I've heard this one is actually a lot better. But that does nothing for me. So.
All right.
But you like movies, Brad.
I do. I'm in a funk. This week put me in a funk. Maybe I'll get into a better place.
I wish I'd have known sooner you in a funk. We could have got you out of that.
What are you excited about, Darren?
Widows, and what else is coming out? Is Wreck-It Ralph this weekend?
No. Instant Family is coming out, and the only reason I mention it is because it's got Tig Notaro in it.
Oh.
And I love Tig Notaro.
Oh, that's the
and
Mark
Octavia
Wahlberg
Spencer.
movie.
Yeah. I'm otherwise not interested, but I do love Tig.
So, yeah, I guess I'm looking forward to Widows. Oh, and Fallout 76 is coming out this week. So, shout out to Ryan Sears and Emily Sears. They worked for Bethesda. They made that game. So, I'm looking forward to playing that. You can follow me at the Disco Dork on all social medias. You can follow the podcast at ItModcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can follow the Indie Dork at WB on Twitter and also on Instagram. And that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be on the lookout for our fistful of widows.
Yeah.
Yeah, on Friday.
Widowers.
Or widowers?
Yeah.
Damn it. All right, so be on the lookout for our fistful of widows or widowers on Friday. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. And until next time.